Hi, Jesse here with Torque King TV. On this episode, we're going to go over to the workbench and show you how our ball joint and U-joint tools can give you professional results. Today's demonstration will be on a Dana 44 independent front suspension axle shaft. The procedure is identical for a drive shaft or any other kind of shaft that takes a U-joint. The only difference will be you'll either have an external D-clip or like this one, you'll have an internal C-clip. Now with the internal C-clips, chances are you're probably going to spend more time trying to get those out than you will actually removing and installing your new U-joint with this tool. Right now I'm going to take these out and I'll get a close-up with the camera of the procedure. Okay, I got those C-clips out. They came out pretty easy for C-clips. The way this tool works is that this part presses up against one yoke and your receiver over here grabs the U-joint cap as you push it through out of the other yoke. Now, the reason why a lot of people bend their yokes is because they try to push both caps out of the same yoke at the same time. Usually one of them gets hung up and bends an ear in or bends an ear out. With this, the yoke is supported here and you're not moving the other U-joint. You're pushing the cross and it's sliding out of the upper cap and it's pushing this supported cap through here. So we'll get this tool set up and we'll see how she goes. Just get your cap lined up in your receiver. It may take a couple tries once you get it started to get it squared up, but once you get it squared up, she goes pretty good. You want to keep a lot of grease on your threads too on your C-frame press. It'll make it last a lot longer. And another thing, when you're pressing these out, a lot of these axle shafts will have slingers on them. Sometimes that'll get pushed down and you can actually bend the slinger on the receiver. You could pop that off, or sometimes you can get it once it starts to touch, you can loosen the tool, move it out, and then run the tool back in and you'll avoid pinching it. But just be aware that you could bend that. Get a little bit of pressure on it. Take a little hammer, just kind of tap the yoke if it sticks, like this one is. And I also probably don't have it quite centered, so just loosen the yoke up a little bit here. Give it another shot, and now it's starting to push right through. I find it's usually easier to remove the longer shaft first. It's just that much less you got to deal with when you get the U-joint half apart. Go till it starts to bind. The U-joint starts to bind. Back it off. You don't want to keep pushing because it'll booger the inside of your yoke up, which is easily fixable with a round file. You'll probably have to round file a little bit anyway. There's that cap. Throw it right in the garbage. Turn it around. It is possible to drop a roller out when you turn it around. That'll blow the end of the cap out. That's okay. It'll still push out just fine. Starting to go. And again, if it does start to hang up, just give that yoke a little bit of tap with a hammer and it'll loosen right up. Push that out. Run your tool back. Take that cap out. Sometimes they'll get hung up in there a little bit. You can't get them by hand. You just take a pair of pliers and twist them right out. Bet. It's that easy. This one. Now this one you don't have a yoke to press on, so you just put the tool right on the cross. Run it back down. These ones are coming out not too bad. Sometimes they're a little bit rusted in. They take a little bit more massaging with the hammer, but they'll all come out and you won't ever bend a yoke here. And it is that easy to take out your old U-joint. I'm going to go through these real quick, get any burrs with a round file. Probably run it through the parts washer one more time just to get it cleaned up, and we'll be back and we'll put one of our premium non-greasable Torque King U-joints back in it. Okay, we've got everything cleaned up. Another thing I want to add with the internal seat clips here, you want to take a flat file and kind of knock some of the crusty rust out of the inside there. It'll make your snap ring seat a lot better. You don't want to use a real good file. You're not trying to take off any material, solid material. A worn out file or a cheap Chinese file is going to be your best bet. We use a cheap Chinese file. Doesn't work good for anything really except for this, but it does work good for this. So we'll go ahead and get started on the assembly. Now we're going to swap this end out for a little press tip, and that will press right on the U-joint cap. We're going to leave this here because the U-joint's cap is going to press just a little bit past on these yokes. So we'll leave that there. Now this is unsupported. You are pushing a new cap in here, but new caps always go in a lot easier than the old caps. You can just about tap them in with a hammer. So you shouldn't have any risk of bending a yoke. Now greasable U-joints, you don't need to worry so much about mixing caps up. Non-greasable U-joints, the grease is metered, and when you take a cap off, say this cap might have a little more grease stuck in it than this cap might have had more grease stick to the cross itself. So you don't want to do that. You might overgrease or undergrease by doing that. So just keep track of which ones you take off. Get your U-joint in there. Make sure it's clean so if the cross does touch the yoke, you don't have to worry about it getting dirty. Push the cross through, put your cap on. You want to make sure your cross is in your cap so when you start pushing it on, you don't drop a roller, because once you do that, you just about every time break the end of the cap out trying to press it back out so you can fix the roller, or you crush the little plastic thrust washer in there. Just get it started with a hammer. Put your press piece on. Press it in. If you do feel that it's still binding too much, you can go ahead and tap it with a hammer as you press it in, and that'll fix that. You want to get just a little bit past so you can see your snap ring groove. You want to be careful not to damage your seal pushing it all the way in. Take a new snap ring. Press it on. You're done with that one. I always find it's easiest if you press it a little bit farther than the width of the snap ring, because the farther over you can get your cross, the less chance you have of dropping rollers out of either side when you put your next cap on. Run that back. Shift the U-joint over just a little bit so you don't drop a roller on either side. Get that cap in there. Tap it in a little with a hammer so it doesn't fall out while you're trying to put it back in your press. Press it in. Put your snap ring on. Now you're halfway done. Even though it's clean, you want to still try to avoid touching the cross to the yoke, but you're going to do it a little bit. Just try to keep it off as much as you can. Press in your next cap. Put a clip on it. Slide your U-joint over a little bit so you don't drop a roller on either side. Nope, don't go too far. All right, almost done. Take your press out, set that aside. Once you get it like this, there's still going to be some tension on your U-joint. It won't turn real easy. So what you do, set it in your vise, and you just seat the snap rings. You're driving the cap all the way out so the snap ring is seated. Now you're not trying to hit the cap, you're just trying to hit the yoke a little bit. I'm not a lefty, so you got it turning nice and easy. You're done. Mark that one for sale. Or if you're working on your personal vehicle, put it back in. You're ready to go. If it's a greasable U-joint, at this time you would install your grease zerk. If you are installing a greasable U-joint, make sure you know what the orientation is of the direction of the zerk itself. You want them pointing in the direction that it's going to be easiest to grease when it's installed in your vehicle. If it's a zerk in the end of the cap, you don't have to worry about it. I prefer non-greasable U-joints. They seem to seal a little bit better, and I don't have to worry about greasing them. So there's that. Since we got the C-frame press out, I've got steering knuckle from that Dana 44. We're going to press the ball joints out of that real quick. Here's the steering knuckle. There's only a couple things you need to do before you start pressing. Take a pick and pick out the grooves around the ball joints, get all the little rocks and dirt out of there. The reason why you want to do that and not just get to going is because all that debris will mash the ends over on the press tool, and you'll either stick the tool in the knuckle or the ball joint will stick in the tool. So you get that cleaned out. This press tool is for the Dana 50 uppers, and it also fits the Dana 44s. With a little modification, it'll do the older Dana 44s with the steering knuckle bolted on them. It's pretty tight clearance. This one actually needs to be ground a little bit more around here. But with a little bit of modification, they'll do the older Dana 44s as well. And then we change this part into just a plain anvil. Put that in there. Put the tool in the groove. Pop it onto the threaded end. Make sure your seat frame press is not going to come out of your vise like this one just did. Put some pressure on it. Tap it with a hammer a little bit. And there it popped. There we go. It's coming right out now. Basically what that pop was is the press built up energy, and then it had enough and it just reset. Now you don't want to put too much pressure on your screw because you will strip out the press. That's why you tap it with a hammer and hopefully get it to pop a little bit sooner. That ball joint's out. All right. Now, how do you press out the other one? With the knuckle like that, it's going to interfere with the tool. Well, that's pretty simple. Just take this, put it on that side, put this end on this side. Run your tool up. Get a little pressure on it. I didn't even have to tap this one. It started coming out all on its own. And that's it. Ready to go. Just needs a little bit of cleanup. New ones put in it. We're not going to do that today. All you need to do is just swap this out with a different tool, and you're ready to go. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions on tools used, feel free to give us a call or send us an email. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time right here on Torque King TV.